Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Transfer Deadline Day. How is everyone going out there? Apologies for us being 9 to 10 minutes late for the people waiting for the live stream. It certainly wasn't my fault, promise. I think Ollie might say otherwise. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, 10 minutes ago I was perfect, raring to go. I was here, I was on time, having a good chat, and it turns out Nick couldn't hear a bloody thing. He had no idea what was going on. His technical gremlins, they usually do hit deadline day, don't they, Nick? It's normally the fax machine that goes down. Today it's the internet. Who knows? We'll hear tomorrow that we've got 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗄 signed on the dotted line, only for the goddamn internet to let us down again.
Yeah, it's gone from the fax machine to the internet now, hasn't it? So yeah, let's see what this evening has to offer us. You've already got into the transfer deadline spirit by wearing your yellow shirt. I don't know if that's what you've gone for or whether it was just pure luck.
No, planned it ahead. No, complete accident. It's just that the other one's in the wash. So this is the one that we've got. But let's pretend it was deliberate and that I've committed to the sort of deadline day colours.
Good man, good man. I made a joke over Teams at work today that I didn't realize that I made. It was the best joke I'd ever made, and I didn't mean to make it. So that is me all over. Anyway, actually, people are going to be watching this thinking, we're not going to sign anyone. Why have they done a live stream? Actually, tons of things have happened today, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. I think there's been lots of noise, lots of sort of movement happening around the club. I think we are expecting announcements to happen in the next couple of hours or so, which will be, you know, differently received, I'm sure, between different fans. There's been a lot of Twitter noise throughout the day about some of our rumours, which I'm sure we'll get into, Nick.
I'm sure we will. We'll also talk about who we wanted, who we obviously expect. Hopefully someone will sign whilst we're live. Who knows? That may happen. Probably won't, but who knows? It may happen. But also, there's lots of kind of move-ins that's happened out of the club. Not really players that we're expecting to see in and around the team just yet, but lots and lots of players, youngsters, have gone out on loan. One a permanent, I believe, as well. But we'll get to that towards the end. Anyway, we've all got a very, very fantastic guest on the line that's going to be talking us through all the possible ins and potential ins that have kind of been going on ever since the January transfer window has opened. Darren Smith, how are you doing, my friend? We've not got Darren Smith. We may get Darren Smith back. I'm sure we will. First, it's me. Darren Smith's internet was working perfectly before we went live. And yeah, I'm going to take that as my fault, to be honest.
Unmute yourself, Oliver, because you're an idiot.
Yeah, what happened? It's all three of us now.
You're having a mare throughout the stream to start us off. But yeah, obviously Darren's been working fine, but you've passed your internet gremlins to him. I'm sure they'll do the rounds for everybody today because that's just the way it seems to go for us on this one.
Yeah, and we've got him back. Darren, how's it going, mate?
Hey. Not too bad. I was fine for 10 minutes, and then just as you were going to bring me in, my internet went down. So it's just one of those nights, I think.
I know, and then Ollie muted himself, and he started talking. We've all done something wrong, so we've all got it out of the way. Now we can crack on and have a great, great night.
It must be the Girona fax machine must have broken just as we came on board.
Yeah, Girona are doing quite well in La Liga, aren't they?
Yeah, but you won't want to talk about that on this program. It'll just make you jealous.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Anyway, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's move on. Let's not talk about anything positive because there's not really anything positive to talk about. Even transfers coming in my opinion. But we will talk about that in a moment. Firstly, Ollie, I want to... No, I'm not going to ask you, actually, because you've done a huge live stream about this with me. So, Darren, the first one that really took my liking was 𝗵𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗄. What did you think to 𝗵𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗄 or the rumour of 𝗵𝗱𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗄? And did you want that to happen? I was just thinking, I think Darren's gone. Ollie, you take over.
I quite liked it. You know, we did do that live stream. I did a really good time. If anyone wants to go back and watch it, if any of those rumours do come back up in the next couple of hours, myself and Riley who's a fantastic guy on Twitter, always a great follow. Had a really good live stream talking about it. And to be honest, I went in a bit unsure as to what I thought about Mepham, whether I thought there was any chance, whether I thought it would be a good move for United. And actually, of all the defenders that we've been linked to, and there have been many, I did feel as though that one might have been the best of our options, shall we say, particularly looking to what might happen in the next couple of hours. It certainly felt like it would have been a good one, but I'm sure there'll be others who know whether or not that was a realistic, what our level of interest was, whether or not we were able to take it forwards at all. Maybe Darren will know a little bit more about how seriously we were in for that conversation, but I think it would have been a good move if we'd been able to pull it off.
Yeah, and should we ask the man, because I think we've got him back now. Darren, how's it going?
Apologies for that. I don't know what's happening over here, but I think we should be okay now.
Good stuff. Chris Mepham, were you excited to hopefully welcome him to Bramall Lane?
Yeah, I think I put that clue out at the start of the window, didn't I? So it was always there. But it's I think there's been a two-half window really. I think there's been a window where we've shopped around in case 𝗕𝗏 was to leave, and there was serious interest in 𝗕𝗏. So some of those names have hung around right to the end of the window. And then there's been the window that we actually planned coming into it, which was basically 3 players, probably more, looking at loans and permanents, although we ended up with a permanent, but it could have well been three loans through this window.
Wow. Well, yeah, that would have been crazy. I don't like the looks of loans because it seems like every time we loan somebody, it's loan with no option to buy. And it's nice to have that option, especially if they do really, really well, as Ben Brereton Diaz has done. He started his time really well at Bramall Lane. My big choice for this window has been spoken about more recently, and that's Joe Worrall. Ollie, I want to ask you, what do you think to Joe Worrall? Would you want to see him at Bramall Lane? And it's now looking like it's possibly not going to happen.
Yeah, this morning when we woke up and then through the morning, it really felt as though there was a lot of momentum gathering behind the Worrall move. I was speaking to some of my friends who are Notts Forest fans, and they were starting to say, we think Worrall's coming to you. We really think that's going to be happening. And so to hear that had collapsed, I was a bit disappointed. I did quite like the look of that move. I think it depended on the fee, obviously, and depending on what we were bringing him in to do. I think Worrall's a sensible move as a permanent on a long-term deal. I think he'd be coming in to help us stabilise in the Championship. I'm not sure he's particularly bringing something new to the table for us in the Premier League. And I think it would be really interesting to see what that meant for us going forward, particularly with Egan. So I think they'd be playing a very similar role within our squad. And whether or not you could actually have both of them, I'm not too sure, but it was one who I was definitely enticed by, shall we say. Is that the best way of describing it without being excited? Maybe that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier on because the amount of players, if we were to sign a player before the window slams shut, we would have on the books right now, possibly going into next season, because who knows, we may even sign Basham back up with him being... Obviously, he's probably still a Championship player. Basham can play until he's 105 for me. But we've got Bash, we've got Egan, we've got Trusty, we've got Jack Robinson, we've got 𝗕𝗏, possibly Holgate, maybe R&D could play there. There's a lot of centre-backs. And if Chris Wilder's wanting to carry on playing 4 at the back as well, that's not many spaces to fill there. So, Darren, what do you think to the possibility of having 1,000 centre-backs next season?
I'm not sure that's what actually happened, to be honest, because the counter to that is John Egan's out of contract. Chris Basham, we don't know his future, whether he's out of contract. I don't think Egan will not see Egan this season, so he's not really got a chance to prove himself one way or the other either. And then you've got obviously there was a lot of interest around 𝗕𝗏, so it's what we would be prepared to accept for him or whether we would hang on to him. So I can understand why we were looking at right-footed centre-backs, but I think this window was always we would get one on loan, to be honest. I think it was Holgate was a player we wanted in the summer, but we were restricted on the domestic loans. And at that time we had a lot of right-footed centre-backs. I think coming into this window without Bash and Egan, he suddenly became a right-footed centre-back, became higher up the list. And so Holgate was the first name we went to. I think there has been a lot of talk about Worrell and Mepham and Souttar. But to be honest with you, we actually thought we'd signed Holgate the day before the West Ham game, but Everton changed the terms of the deal. So I think really all that's been happening is that we've been shopping around. One, because it looked like Everton weren't going to let him. Then when they agreed, we were worried they might do exactly the same, but at 11 o'clock at midnight or something like that. So we needed to have the likes of Worrell and Souttar. But I think we've got the player that we wanted. And I think the key to it has been that Holgate is more, is a little bit more flexible than the players that you're talking about. The likes of a Worrell and a Souttar are centre backs. Holgate can play centre back, right back. He can cover for Vinny Souza in midfield. So I think as a loan, he's got a little bit more flexibility than the other guys that you mentioned.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Souttar's another one that you mentioned that's on my list to talk about. I never really saw that happening unless Enel went out, because I think it would be quite big money to sign him, or big money for us anyway. I've always really liked Harry Souttar. Not sure he's a Premier League player just yet, but I think he's a really, really good Championship player. The other one was Godfrey, Darren. Anything on him?
On who? Sorry, I just missed that.
Ben Godfrey.
And I've never heard that name mentioned within the club at all, to be honest. I've seen the noise on the internet. I think there has been, because I've seen foreign names mentioned. I think there's been a bit of a look around the market for right centre backs. I mean, you're restricted by who wants to come to a team that's bottom of the league, who wants to come to a team with a restricted budget, and you shop around. Now, I think fans take that the wrong way, as almost like we're rolling the dice and a bit desperate. And in reality, you're just checking everyone. And then when you've got all the pieces in front of you, you decide who your favourite choice is. I don't think there's anything wrong in that, to be honest.
And do you think that Mason Holgate is the main target?
Based on the fact he's been the one that we've talked about right back to middle of January, yeah, I would have said so. But again, there can be a bit of movement. Like I think we talked to Worrell as an option for if Enel left, in the same that we talked about Mepham, and then that has become a possibility of a loan, which I think was a surprise. I don't think Forest were keen to let him go out on a loan. So it's moving all the time. But I think we sort of much further along the line with Holgate than anyone else.
Yeah. Well, Jack brings up, does anyone here actually know anything, or are these just rumours? Well, I've been told today that Mason Holgate has passed his medical. Whether it falls down for whatever reason, anything can happen in football. That is the thing. 1 minute you know something's definitely going to happen, and then the next minute the rug's got pulled under the deal. So we are expecting Holgate to sign tonight. But like I say, anything could happen. And we've spoken about Mepham, Worrell, Godfrey, Holgate, Souttar. And I'm sure that if that does fall through, we've got a plan B. Whether that kind of ends up happening, we'll have to wait and see. But stranger things have happened in football than deals not going through on transfer deadline day. Let's talk about attacking options. I don't know whether this was ever an idea in the club's armoury, but like Che Adams is one that always gets spoken about because he's played for Sheffield United in the past. Ole, do you ever see Che Adams coming back to Sheffield United? Ole, mute.
Just don't see that as being anything like realistic, to be honest, in terms of him coming back to United. I think if he wants to move, he'll probably be looking at his situation thinking he's got more chance of being a Premier League footballer with Southampton next season than he has with Sheffield United next season. You know, they're a team that's absolutely flying. He is a real centre point within their squad, and I know they really like what he's bringing to them at the moment. I think he will also be looking and thinking that if he does want to move, he might be able to get a very big one in the summer. I think he's got contractual situation, which might mean that he's a bit more available come the summer window as well. So he might have his eye on that if he was looking to go somewhere and trying to leave Southampton. I'm sure we would love to have him back. Don't get me wrong, but I would be very shocked if there was anything more than just fan rumours and hopes within that one, because it seems so unlikely that he'd realistically even want to come to us, never mind be a name that's on our radar.
And funny you should say that. Another player, it seems like we're only interested in Southampton attackers because I might butcher this, 𝗍𝗂𝗏. I've never heard of this bloke until a few days ago. He's played a few games in the Championship this season for Southampton. I think it's 2 goals and 1 assist, or 1 goal and 2 assists. So I wouldn't say he's pulled up trees, but he's still only really, really young. Darren, have you heard anything about 𝗍𝗂𝗏? Is that somebody that we were ever interested in?
To be honest with you, I think we knew Brereton Diaz was going to get done just before Christmas, so I don't even think we've looked at strikers this window. I think it was never, to be honest.
Fair enough, fair enough. A few mentioning Ryan Kent in the comments. I don't know if that's something that's come out recently or whether it's just a hope. But does anyone want to talk? Ollie, do you want to talk about Ryan Kent for a minute? I'll be honest, I've not seen much of Ryan Kent this season or seasons previous, because Scotland is not one of the leagues that I watch a lot of, to be honest.
No, I think he has had his moments where he's been really a standout player. I think when he was at Rangers, they really liked him and thought he was a real talent. Now, I think he has blown very hot and then very, very cold in terms of his contributions. Particularly, he only moved in the summer. Obviously, there were big rumours for us in the summer. It did sound as though he was a player we were really targeting to try and get through the door. So it's not a shock to me, knowing that he's available from Fenerbahce, that we would be potentially one of the names that's being mentioned around that. We might be one of the teams that are in for him. I certainly wouldn't be against it, because I think we do need something, just a little bit more spark. I think Brereton Diaz has shown that we can bring in players that hit the ground running and make a real impact on this team. He has just been a real bright spark, and we needed it. And maybe if we bring in another, that might be, again, a little bit of a difference that we start to see within this club. So I'm hearing that his move to Lazio has fallen through. I've seen a few people referencing that in the comments. So if that is the case, and he is available, it might be that we're still in that market and that we're still wanting to have a bit of a chat with him. But again, it's guesswork at this stage, because obviously with him having had that move fully agreed to go to Lazio, I imagine he was somebody who we thought had already gone.
Yeah, I think you possibly have anything to add on that one, Darren?
My understanding is, if 𝗍𝗂𝗏 was still in charge coming into this window, we'd have probably signed Ryan Kent and not Brereton Diaz, but I just don't think he's been on Chris Wilder's radar, to be fair.
Fair enough, fair enough. To be honest, I think that Ben Brereton Diaz has started the season fantastically, or started his kind of season with the Blades fantastically. I'm a big fan of Ben Brereton Diaz, and hope we see him for a long time to come. The last thing before we'll let you go, Darren, I just want to find out, who would you have liked to have signed? I'm not talking about if object, because we all know we'd like to sign Gary Medine again, obviously. But who would you like to see come through the door for a reasonable amount of money?
I think the money's actually got the offers because of interest, but I really was hoping we could get Sam Johnston on loan for goalkeeper. I think there's a big debate, isn't there, amongst fans as to whether loans are worth it given our league position. But I do think that if you're going to get a loan, a goalkeeper and a striker are the ones that can get you 10 points in a half season. So I think Brereton Diaz probably came into that category, and I think a top goalkeeper probably comes into that category. But I get this, and I think we could have afforded his wages on a half season loan. So he's the one I was really hoping we would have been able to get, but I actually think he might end up staying at Palace, because I think they've sort of priced him out of a move, but we'll have to see what happens in his last couple of hours. But obviously he won't come to us now that we've signed a keeper.
Yeah, Ollie, same question to you. Take yourself off mute this time. But I want to ask you, I don't want to hear Victor Johansson. I don't want to hear that name at all. I want to hear somebody that's not a goalkeeper. Go for it.
Oh, you see, you've limited me there, because obviously my go-to answer for anybody who's heard me speak at all for the last few months, years, has known that the answer to this question would be Victor Johansson every single time that it is asked. I think looking beyond that and looking at what other positions we really do need to strengthen in, it's defenders. And, you know, I think we've probably been looking for a defender from very early in the window. And, you know, it's now deadline day with 4.5 hours to go. And we're not there yet. We've still not got that defender over the line. So at this stage, I don't know if I'm in a position to pick who I think would be the best one, who I want to see coming in, who I want to say. I just want us to get a defender in because I think it will bring bodies and will bring additional strength to the club. Of the ones rumoured, my preferred options would have been Souttar or Worrell. I think they were the strongest of the options. I know my dad in particular has been shouting about Souttar for at least 6 months. He wanted us to try and get him in the summer, wanted us to try and get him again in this window. I think he looks at the height and really thought about the sort of extra that he can bring to Sheffield United. At 6'7", that is huge. He's an absolute unit and he would be a massive threat attacking corners. But also we concede so many from those kind of set-piece situations that he would have been a huge asset to actually give us something we've not got at the moment. He would have helped us to keep out other teams, to stop giving chances away. So, yeah, the more I talk about it, the more I think Souttar would have been the one I would have liked. But like you said before, a big price tag attached to that and lots of other clubs interested.
Yeah, too right. It seems like every player that we're interested in, Leeds are as well. So, yeah, I don't want any Leeds sloppy seconds. Steve has just mentioned about Harry Maguire. I think starting at wages. I'd love to see Harry Maguire back at Bramall Lane, but no chance. The other one that I was going to bring up quickly was Sheff Pauls. And he's saying about Holgate, the last time he showed any sort of form was 2021. Maybe Chris Wilder sees something we don't. However, I was thinking about this earlier on because Chris Wilder used to be brilliant at bringing in these players that we've heard of. We know that the journeyman or youngsters coming through that we've not really heard too much of, like Jack O'Connell, for instance, David McGoldrick that did the rounds and ended up being one of the greatest players of all time for the Blades. So maybe Holgate is one of those that he can possibly get something out of that we didn't expect. What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, I think Holgate, we know him inside out. Hecky had him under him as well. And it's not just Chris that's liked him. Obviously, Hecky's liked him. The recruitment boys have liked him. So he's been on the radar for a while. And I think you've got to be careful. I think the problem we have is with him being a loan, he might take a while to get up to speed, which is not what you want for a loan. But if you actually look, he's had about 9 or 10 managers at Everton. And he's then gone to Southampton and they play football. And that's not really Holgate, to be honest with you. So I can understand why we've probably plumped for him more than others. And like I say, he can play in more than one position. I think the biggest issue really is, should we be spending the money now or should we be sort of banking it for the summer and putting it in the Championship? Because with his wages, we're probably talking around about £1 million in cost. And that's obviously a big sum when you're going down into the Championship. So now, it's a balance, isn't it? You have to give yourself a chance to stay up, and we have no cover for Anel. And he may even play alongside Anel, with Anel moving to the middle. But that's probably more the question than I think than the choice, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's probably a good place to stop because he is the one that we're all expecting to come through the door today. Mason Holgate, lots of people in the comments coming in a bit later, wondering whether anything's been agreed or whether. We are expecting Mason Holgate to sign for the Blades, or I am anyway. I'm putting words in everybody else's mouth in here. I'm expecting that to happen today. But if it doesn't happen, that is football. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, Darren. Really, really appreciate it. Always good to chat with you.
Cheers. See you later.
Thanks a lot, Darren. Cheers, mate. So, Ole, shall we move on to the next thing? But before we move on to the next thing, I've been asked to give a message out there because I don't know of this lovely gentleman, but Paul Young has asked if we could give a shout out to old man Steve that unfortunately passed away this week. He sits on the cop with Paul Young, 𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So he just wanted us to give a big shout out to old man Steve. And yeah, thoughts are with you and your family and everybody connected to Old Man Steve. That's a great nickname as well, Old Man Steve. If I get to be Old Man Nick one day, I'll very much like that. So yeah, big shout out to Old Man Steve and anyone affected by his passing. So let's move on, Ollie, shall we? To well, shall we just talk about 𝗂𝗏𝗏 and 𝗬𝗏𝗏? Because I've written them down as two players that I wanted to come in. I know you're laughing, but I know there was never any chance of 𝗬𝗏𝗏. I know we'd always want that to happen. But did you, if he'd scored no goals, got took off every 2 seconds or not brought on for Senegal, do you think there was ever a chance of us signing him?
It always felt a big long shot, didn't it? I mean, there was rumours and there was lots of he might be on the way out at Marseille. You know, he's not really kicked on. He's not had a fantastic start to the season. There were lots of conversations about them potentially letting him go out on loan. I think the change of manager at Marseille has really helped him. I think he's got more game time. He's been more involved. He's started contributing more to Marseille. And so even before the AFCON started, that put a little bit of a pin in it, as if to say, I think he's going to stick around at Marseille. I think the new manager does quite like him. And then with the AFCON added on to that, I don't really think there was any realistic chance, though I'm sure we would love to bring him in. I'm sure the Prince would love to have the opportunity to bring him back and say, see, you should have stayed in the summer. It's not always better to go somewhere else. But no, I don't think it was realistic. 𝗂𝗏𝗏 is an interesting one, because he was rumoured in the summer, rumoured at the start of this window, and I wouldn't have turned my nose up at it. As Darren said, you know, we got Brereton Diaz, and that was the one that clearly we wanted, and we obviously felt that we didn't need to spend any more money on our attackers after that. But he does look to be going to Ipswich, I think, today. Not sure if that's been announced or if it's still a sort of strong rumour that will be completed shortly. But clearly he was available, and he has been allowed to leave Bournemouth. So it would be interesting to know if we'd seen anything of a runner in it. But I think after Brereton Diaz came in, that was the only striker we were ever really going to be looking to put our money into.
Yeah, fair enough. I just wanted to pop this on the screen. I'll read through it quickly for you, Elaine Bray. My brother Gary passed away 24th of January. Huge blade. He was 69. He didn't get to many games the last few years because of his health, but always kept up with them. Shout out to your brother Elaine. That's really sad. There's a gentleman, I'm not going to name him, but there's a gentleman that sits around me that's had the same with his wife and didn't get to many games, and unfortunately she passed as well. So yeah, it's really sad, isn't it? It's always really sad when things like that happen, because we are a big, huge family, really, and you end up becoming friends with people that you would never be just because you sit near them when you're obviously watching the Blades week in, week out. And yeah, you end up speaking to lots and lots of people, which is very lovely. Right, so mate, let's move on to talking about how well the lads that we've brought in the January window have done. That was harder to say than it should have been. In the January transfer window, the players that we've brought in, who do you think have done well? And who do you think could do a little bit better? This is very difficult because we've only brought in Ben Brereton Diaz. We've got 𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that's only played 2 games, and everybody's writing off all when. Everybody's seen him for a season already, which I found weird, seeing as though he's only played a game and a half. What do you think?
It's funny though, isn't it? Because like even the way you said the question there, we've signed 2 players, and you went, "Who's done really well? Who's got to do better?" And it was like, "Yeah, all right."
We've actually signed 3 players.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not really counting under 21 right back as a really big important signing that's going to gee us up for the rest of the season. I think obviously Brereton Diaz has started fantastically. I've been really impressed with him. I think I've still got. Do you know what? When you're about to say something and you realise that you're just a massive downer. Like, that's very much the position that I know I'm in right now. So everybody watching, I know that I'm a massive downer and that, you know, it doesn't really bring much. But for me, we've spent quite a, you know, I assume we're paying quite a bit of money in terms of wages at Ben Brereton Diaz. And he's been brilliant and he has made a difference. He's scored goals. He's given us something that we've not got otherwise. And so with that in mind, for the next 3 to 6 months, fantastic to get him through the door. Really positive, really pleased about it because he makes us better on the pitch, gives us more of a chance to put up a respectable points tally. The other side of that coin, of course, is, as Darren said, we've spent quite a bit of money on a loan there that would go quite far for us in the Championship. We're not a team that is blessed with lots of money. We saw last season that we are not blessed with lots of money. We ended up in a transfer embargo. Did we really have sort of 3 million quid in wages that we could afford to throw away at the end of this season? Maybe not. And I mean, you said that you felt as though we were relegated after Palace. You lasted about a month longer than I did because I looked at Luton on Boxing Day and I thought that was the death blow that maybe might have seen us change our January window, and it might have done. But Brereton Diaz, can't knock him, fantastic impact. I just question some of the financial impact that maybe it'll have on the club more widely. 𝗬𝗏𝗃, obviously, we've got to give him a chance. We've got to see more from him. We've got to see him actually develop, come to the club, actually have time to train and play with his defenders, have time to get used to our squad, our style, how we're doing. But he does need to do a little bit better.
Yes, it did make me laugh. 8 W's that comment there. Do you remember Lee Baxter?
No, fortunately not.
Do you know the Lee Baxter story, though?
I know of Lee Baxter, yeah.
For anyone that doesn't, I'll quickly give you the rundown because I was there. Me and my dad was there when that infamous first half happened. Lee Baxter conceded 3 goals in the first half, got subbed off, and never played for the Blades ever again. I can't really remember the goals, how they happened, but I remember one was a penalty, which he probably couldn't do much about, but I'm pretty sure the other 2 were absolute howlers. And Alan Fettis came on for him at halftime, and he was bad as well. He really, really wasn't good, but it was, the worst performance I have ever seen anybody in a Sheffield United shirt. It was just shocking.
Real.
But at the same time, like 𝗬𝗏𝗃, I'm not saying that 𝗬𝗏𝗃 could have done a lot better with a lot of the goals. One goal he definitely should have saved, and that was Danny Welbeck's shot against Brighton. But yeah, I don't blame him for the other goals.
No.
I really don't. Most of them have been absolute screamers. So what can you do? And Wes conceded one of the screamers. So I just think we've been, yes, players should have chased down the players more. They should have got in front of them. They should have stopped them from shooting. But at the same time, what can you do when Eze smashes the ball in from that far out right into the top corner? He would have had to have been 8 foot tall to have dived and got anywhere near that. But yeah, he's only a tiny.
The one thing I didn't think we would be saying, I did not think the one thing about 𝗬𝗏𝗃, I didn't think we'd say if only you were a bit taller. That's not the scenario I think that we're in. No, you're completely
he was
right.
the tallest man that's ever lived.
Yeah, if he was the tallest man that had ever lived, he'd have probably saved it. But no, you're right. And to be honest, even the goal that, it would be to blame for 90+7 when you're already 4-2 down, it is what it is, isn't it? At the end of the day, at that stage, it's frustrating, but it's not something that should be a death knell to somebody's career. I think we need to give him time to embed, give him time to get used to the team around him. We need the team around him to actually stop the other team shooting and making sure that if they are going to shoot, it's under pressure and not just an easy one. But all that being said, if you're going to concede 5 of your sort of first 7 shots on target or 7 of your first 9, there are going to be questions. And so it's just a case of not getting on his back, not wanting to cause that as an issue. But obviously he would fall into the category of we want to see more from him in the next few weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And I've left this comment on screen from Matthew Mountain. That's a great name. I'd love to have a surname Mountain, but it might not be a surname. I hope it is. Please let us know if it is. So obviously he's been brought into the team. We're leaking goals anyway, lacking in confidence. This almost feels like a bit Ramsdale-ish as well. I know Ramsdale came good at the end of the season, but it almost feels like what we should have done is bought him, loaned him back to Atletico to be like, don't lose loads of confidence by letting in loads of goals in the Premier League. We'll have him in the Championship where he's got all the confidence in the world to come straight in and do really well. But hopefully, like we say, it doesn't cause him any problems confidence-wise. I think we should move on to... Actually, no, Sam Curtis we want to have a quick touch on. Sam Curtis, obviously, we've not seen anything of him. Lots and lots of people... Yes, it is. That's fantastic. That Nick Mountain. Might change it. Shall we all just change our surname to Mountain?
I mean, I'm halfway there.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Sam Curtis, Ollie. We've all heard great things about him. He's only very, very young. He's probably going to be playing in the development squad for the rest of the season, I would have thought, unless something crazy happens and Bogle gets injured. Baldock doesn't come back as quick as what we expect. 𝗬𝗏𝗏's actually gone out on loan. That's one that we'll talk about in a second. But no, I don't expect to see him. Somebody asked that in the comments. I don't expect to see him playing in a red and white shirt for the first team in the Premier League. He probably would like to be fair, because probably nice to get that Premier League cap under his belt. But at the same time, hopefully, he'll be playing in the Premier League for us for many years to come when he eventually gets his chance in the first team. Now, Ollie, our final section of this video, it might go on for a while because there's a lot of people to talk about. These are players that have gone out, first of all, and then we'll talk about players that could have possibly gone out. So, Antoine Hackford, recently, just as I was driving home, I saw that Burton Albion has gone on loan to Burton. Obviously, they've done really well for us with Daniel Jefferson, him going there a couple of years ago, scored a load of goals. Hopefully, Antoine Hackford can do the same. Actually, Antoine Hackford's been banging in goals for the development squad as well. So I think this is the perfect time. He obviously had a really, really bad injury, and now he's coming back scoring goals. So it's nice to see him go out on loan and hopefully get that experience. What do you think?
Completely agree. One of my big things for this window was getting players like Hackford some game time. Let's see what their level actually is. Let's see them play adult football, play up against other adults.
Adult football. As soon as you said that, it sounded like he was playing over 35s league or something.
Yeah, let's get him in over 35, see how he does, then we'll bring him back in. Now, I think it would be a great move for him, that. I do like it. I personally thought we would probably see him at League 2 level rather than coming in at League 1 level. I think that'll be interesting to see how he adapts to it. Like you say, Burton have done well for us in the past with Jefferson, so I'd just like to see that from him. I think that's a really good move, and hopefully we'll see him get game time and maybe score a few goals between now and the end of the season, and then we can have a proper look at him in the summer, because, you know, we might have a bit of a striker crisis ourselves come September.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strikers that we own right now that I think could do really, really well in the Championship. Like Daniel Jefferson could come back in and do a really good job. Obviously, he needs to be fighting for his career, because Daniel Jefferson, he's not had the career at this point that he probably expected and that we expected after scoring that goal against Everton a few years back. For me, 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is so exciting to watch, even in the Premier League. So I can't wait to see him scoring goals in the Championship next season. Actually, I'd rather him score goals in the Premier League next season for us. But yeah, this is not the. He's
going to score any goals in Premier League next season. It's not going to be for United.
This is not the video for that, Ollie. We're not being negative. We're being positive, Peters. Also, let me find it. Gaza. S2, One, I would play ASAP. The reason why I want to bring this up on screen, because he's gone to the lengths of even putting the E with the accent on. Fair enough. Not like FAO6. Just putting one. Come on, mate. Come on. Go the extra mile. Anyway, we will talk about 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 in a second. One, I'd like to see him go out on loan. Maybe it's slightly too early to see him go out on loan. I don't know. Or maybe a National League club. I think he's way, way, way above that. But I don't know. Is he ready for men's football yet?
I'd have put him at the same as Hackford. I actually think physically he's probably more developed than Hackford and probably looks more like he's ready to make that step up to start playing sort of adult football. I think whether that's League 2, again, I probably would have pitched him around that level. Let's just see him start to have a bit of an impact somewhere, maybe get some career goals behind him as well. So I do think that'd be good. But yeah, I expected to see him go out on loan. I don't expect to see him in and around the first team, if I'm being honest. I know he did make an appearance earlier this season, but I do think it'd be harsh at his age to try and throw him into this season and this United team, as exciting a talent as he undoubtedly is.
Yeah, absolutely. The other player that I wanted to mention, well, I suppose there's two others. One is 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗏, who's been given a new contract and has gone on loan to Rotherham, I believe. I think I'm happy with that. Like I've only seen 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 play a couple of times. And fair enough, they were both for the first team. I didn't think 𝗍𝗫 was quite up to it, but if he's got the contract, obviously they see a lot in him. What have you reckoned to him when you've seen him play?
I've never thought, I'll be honest, having seen him with my own eyes playing for the United first team. Yeah, realise. I've never really thought he was at the level. I think he needed more development. I know he had a loan to Rochdale that I don't think was overly successful. I don't think they were particularly happy with him or what he was offering to them at League Two level. At the time, they were right at the bottom of League Two as well. So that in itself doesn't bode well. But I've got a friend who's a scout. And he's been going around the last 6 months watching under-21s games and recommending players to his club at sort of top-end League Two level. And one of the ones he's picked out is 𝗍𝗫 𝗍𝗂. He thinks he's going to be a real player. He really likes him. He has been touting him to sort of the clubs that he works with and speaks to for that sort of upper League Two, lower League One level. So I was very shocked to see him drop to the Championship. I didn't think he would be quite ready for that level. I don't think it really at this stage of his development, that's where he's at. But I do think that there will be a player in there, and I am really pleased to see him get out, hopefully get some game time, really start to contribute. And I think there'll probably be a space for him in that Rotherham team to at least get a few games under his belt at that level and see if he is up to it or not.
Yeah, I think you're right. And clearly, if we've given him a new contract, let's see what he can do. See if he comes back and gets himself anywhere near the team. Because as of right now, I think Baldock's actually in a little bit of a grey area, a bit of a weird position, because Jayden Bogle has been fantastic since Chris Wilder's been the manager. Obviously picking up quite a few injuries. I think we expected Baldock back, and he's still out. And obviously I'm 36. I know I'm no spring chicken, but I think that obviously he's a little bit younger than me. But he's certainly older than Jayden Bogle. There's obviously Sam Curtis that we've just signed, who will be looking to bang his wrist, his knuckles on the door to try and get in at that right back spot or right wing back spot. And then there's 𝗍𝗫 𝗍𝗫 we've just given a new contract to. So we are bolstering that position. The other one I wanted to mention was Finlay Potter, gone out to Fleetwood permanently. Apparently, that's what Hal told me. I haven't seen that with my real eyes on Twitter. I've just had a little look on the SUFC development page just to see if there's any others, and it doesn't look like there's any others that have gone out as of yet. So shall we talk about 𝗍𝗫-𝗶𝗶𝗲? What is going on with this man? It looked like he was going out on loan, and I've not seen anything today. Has he gone out on loan? What's going on?
Not seen anything myself either, to be honest. I thought this had been done a month ago, to be honest. It was just hugely rumoured for so long that he was going to Sweden, that he was going to AIK, that he was going somewhere else in this window, and that very clearly neither he nor his agent wanted him to stay at Sheffield United. They felt as though they got sort of a loan lined up and really saw him moving on. So I'm really shocked that he's still here today at 8 o'clock. I just don't think... But there's obviously no place for him in the United squad. There's no place for him anywhere near our starting lineup. It makes sense to get him off the books and get him somewhere else, get him game time, get him playing, and then hopefully get him a permanent deal in the summer, because it's just not going to work for him here. So, yeah, I have no idea why he hasn't gone yet, but I can only think that surely he will in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, completely agree. This is a great point from Being the Blade 236. I'm not surprised that we've not shifted more senior players. Who's the first player that you think of when you see that?
Annoyingly, the first for me was McBurney. He's the one I thought he was going to go. I thought McBurney was going to go this January. I really expected him to be one that left.
You did say that on the video as well.
New contract, no sign of him really looking like he's going to stay beyond the summer. Obviously, he goes on a free. It's a £20 million investment. I really thought that he'd be leaving us this January. I thought there would be interest from maybe Rangers or teams in Scotland. There might be other teams sniffing around. I thought we'd take what money we could get, and he'd be one that left us. The other one, obviously, is 𝗍𝗫-𝗍𝗶𝗏, who I think we all expected to see leave the club, particularly with some of the noises that's happened over the last couple of weeks since 𝗍𝗫 came in. And yeah, I did think that we probably would see a move for him. Maybe 𝗍𝗫's injury, though, put pay to that. You know, if he's under concussion protocols, if he can't play at the weekend, then we've not got a choice. Wes has got to stay, and he's got to play on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, in being on the bench, he's being a professional, and because he could have easily said, "I'm not playing. I'm not traveling with you." and it could have been Adam Davis in the net or
Ramsdale
missed
again.
that.
If I don't want to play this week, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Exactly. Obviously, I just mentioned then who's the first person that comes to mind when you think of senior players offloading. This was actually the one that I was thinking that came to mind straight away. I'm not sure if he's fit or not, but John Fleck is not.
He played for us, to be honest.
Exactly, I know. and the thing is, I don't want to be disrespectful to John Fleck because he's a Blades legend. He's an absolute legend, and he will be remembered as a legend. You sometimes want him to go out when they're on top, and I think if we'd have just let him go
in the summer,
nobody would have batted an eyelid really, because he didn't have much of an impact last season. I actually think he had one really, really good game right at the back end of the season. I'm thinking, I wonder. No.
Is he back? Is John Fleck back?
Is John Fleck back? No. There's another one there, Ollie Norwood. That's not one that I was thinking of really, because he's on the bench, he's playing, he's coming on. Brewster, another one that someone's mentioned. Fair. I get it. I get
Further down in our comments, Amon has summed up my thoughts on Brewster. I'll throw it up on screen.
Where's that?
Take a fiver for Brewster now. I think, that for me, I would have liked to see probably Brewster go out. I know we talked about it on a podcast, didn't we, at the start of the window, talking about what players we'd like to see go out there, maybe move on. I mentioned McBurney, but Brewster was another one who I thought we have to get out on loan somewhere. Just, he can't continue at United because it just ain't happening. I don't know if it ever will, but it certainly isn't at the minute. So we need to give him a fresh start just to get some momentum, some confidence behind him. So he'd be one that I'd let go. I think Fleck and Norwood that have just been mentioned. Yeah, I would have let Fleck go. I wouldn't have let Norwood go. I know he divides opinion. I'm not going to go off on one of my rants. I've done a video on this before if people do want to hear my full thoughts. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't be letting Norwood go at this stage, at least until I'm confident that we've got a proper replacement for what he brings to the club.
Do you know what? Scott's put a really, really good thought out there. Do you know what? What have we got to gain for the rest of the season? I actually think Asula's progression is probably more important right now than him being available for the team. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
It's not a bad shout. It ain't a bad shout. I think we've got as well. You think about who's going to play at centre forward. Now, Archer at the moment isn't starting at centre forward. He sometimes plays on the wing, but he's not playing at centre forward. So Asula is actually, he's playing brilliant. He's developing brilliant, but he's not going to score any goals. He's not really going to build loads of confidence playing for United in this state at the bottom of the Premier League. So yeah, I could see him going out on loan, and I think that'd be a fair move. I wouldn't have been against that. Certainly if it meant we could actually play Archer in his real position, I think that'd be nice to see at some point between now and the summer when he leaves us.
It would be nice, to be fair. Evening, 𝗜HP𝗱𝗶𝗲, Everton fan, apparently. Evening, Jimmy, as well. I've just spotted Jimmy pop in the stream. Yeah, absolutely right, mate. Absolutely right. I want to talk about Wes just for a second, because obviously someone's mentioned it in the comments. It looks like 𝗬𝗍𝗏 will not be playing at the weekend because of concussion protocol. You could see him walking off the pitch, how angry he was that they were marching him off the pitch, because he clearly thought he was fine. But it's one of those things, you've just got to listen to the medical staff, haven't you? And he probably thinks he's fine, and you never know, he could have had problems. So I'd rather him be fine and we play Wes. Obviously, that means that Wes doesn't go out. I think that Wes was begging to go out, but him and Wilder must have come to some sort of truce, maybe. Obviously, the contract situation at the end of the season, Wes is probably like, yep, I'll be number 2 for the rest of the season, but I'm gone. I'm gone at the end of the season. And actually, I think he'll be a really, really good goalkeeper for someone. But actually, I don't want it to be us.
No.
Jimmy's saying 10 days. I've heard 9 days in the comments as well. But it does overtake that next game. So, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I can see 𝗬𝗍𝗏 missing this one. And because I want to see him play for the rest of the season, 𝗬𝗍𝗏. I want him to get games and games and games underneath his belt, because he's certainly not had the easiest of starts. I think actually Wilder would probably have wanted Wes to play against Brighton and then 𝗬𝗍𝗏 to come in for Palace, because 𝗬𝗍𝗏 was in the country for what? Like 1 day, something like that.
Well,
and then he's thrown
will he have had a training session yet? Will 𝗬𝗍𝗏 have actually, before Palace, he'll have played 2 games. Will he have had a training session? Maybe Monday after they've travelled to London? Like
more Premier League, well, more games than training sessions. That is crazy.
That's insane, isn't it? So, I mean, that's why I don't want to judge him too early, because it's mad the fact that he's played more games than he's had training sessions with the club. Like, that's insane. So, yeah, I'd like to see him back. I would like to see him play now consistently till the end of the season. I think we've then got, obviously, that conversation about the weekend. Wes has to step in and he has to be professional. You know, it's what we would expect. And I'm sure he will do that the same way that he has always done, because he was number 2 originally. He stepped up and really proved himself to become our number 1. And I don't think I've got anything other than sort of respect for him and for what he has done, albeit that I don't think he was good enough as we've come to the Premier League.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think if we'd have got a little bit more money, I think we would have bought a goalkeeper in the summer. I think we probably were looking around for a goalkeeper, but none for the right price came up. Obviously, we all know now that we should have gone big on that, but at the same time, do you not go and buy Archer? Do you not go and buy Harmer? Like who gives for the goalkeeper? Yeah, I know you're saying Archer. I know. But he scored some big goals for us as well last this season.
It's easy to say in hindsight. At the time, if we'd not signed Archer, I'd have gone insane. Jimmy, chat, he'd have gone insane. We'd have all lost his minds if we knew he was available and we didn't sign him. There was no choice. The club they had to sign Archer. So hindsight, it's easy to say that's maybe where the money could have been. But I'm not going to complain about that in general, because I think it was the right move at the time.
And is he the leading goal scorer still?
McBurney, isn't it?
Well, he's got 3. Oh, no, he's not got... Yeah, he's got 3. McBurney's got 2 penalties and... Yes, he did. They've both got 3, I think. I think they've both got 3. So he's a leading goal scorer, and he's practically been frozen out by Chris Wilder, because there's no way on this earth that he should have been still sat on that bench on the 86th minute. Yeah, that was ridiculous when we're trying to get a goal. There's 2 other players that I want to talk about before we leave, Ollie. Anel, obviously... Who knows? He could be sold last 5 minutes of this window. Who knows? I believe it was. Say that again.
Has he got a release clause now? I thought he might have. I thought it might be around that sort of £20 million mark, something like that. I don't actually
know.
Something
similar. Cannot confirm nor deny. I've heard something similar. So if that is met, he may be on his way. Who knows? But right now, there's not that many murmurings. Obviously, we've not been on Twitter much because we've been chatting in the last sort of 52 minutes. So who knows? You're going to have to let us know in the comments if anything has changed. But yeah, that would be a big, big loss. But at the same time, Anel, he's not had a great season this season. And I actually thought he was pretty poor the other night against Crystal Palace. Yeah, he got absolutely bullied by Mateta.
I would have been very tempted to take the money if there was significant money on offer. I'm talking sort of 15 million plus. I think I would have been tempted to take that and use it and put it towards funds for the summer, because that's just where we are sat right now. I think that we need to be thinking much more long term. I don't think we can talk about or think about this season. And I think Bean sums up the issue that we've got there absolutely perfectly. We've got so much work to do in the summer that every penny we spend now, every penny we don't get in the club now, could come back to bite us if we end up doing frees and loans again in the summer. And we're trying to build a promotion squad from the Championship. It's not easy, and we're not in a great position to start to rebuild again.
No, you're absolutely right. Actually, that's a great time to just mention this. So, out of contract is, I know we've gone through this time and time again, but so we might as well go through it again. Wes out of contract, Adam Davis and Missa again. That just leaves 𝗍𝗿𝗍𝗂𝗏. Bogle out of contract, Baldock out of contract, Basham out of contract. All the Bs. Bogle, Basham, Baldock. Egan out of contract. Lowe out of contract. R&D out of contract. I've never called him R&D out loud
R&D.
And now likely to be sold. Holgate, end of loan. And Larouci, end of loan. That is a lot of defenders that are going to not have a contract at the end of the season if we don't do something about it quick.
Yeah. And that is huge, isn't it? Like, what does it leave us with, actually, after you take out all those players? There's very little left at the club, particularly with the rumours of Anel maybe moving on in the transfer as well. We are very, very short, and we want to be proactive in this rebuild. That's the one thing that I think has frustrated me right now, is that I thought that we would have started the rebuild in January. We might have brought in a couple of players, with the view to next season and just getting them embedded up to speed with how United play and what we're going to be doing. I think, you know, we need that level of commitment, because leaving it till the summer, it's just so much to do all at once. And it is a concern. And I think, you know, it was raised by Bean, and I understand exactly where he's coming from, because our hit rate recently isn't exactly fantastic.
No, it's really not. Jimmy mentioned we have some options on some of them, but I think looking at these names, I don't think there's a lot that Chris Wilder would look at that and think, do you know what? We need to make sure we tie him down. For me, Bogle is a definite. I would love to see Egan sign another contract, even though lots and lots of people were giving him stick at the start of the season. Reece Darrington-Davies. After that, there's not a lot. Baldock possibly, but who knows how he comes back from his injury. It's tough. It's really tough, and I'm glad I don't have to make these decisions. I really am. The last player I wanted to talk about before we leave is our shining light, Andre Brooks. Man United are interested in him. Apparently, probably not. It's probably just paper talk or someone making up a Twitter account and tweeting it out. But we've got to talk about it. Andre Brooks, what a fantastic player. I don't think we can even think about selling him unless it's 50 million and upwards. What a player. What a fantastic player. And one thing that I will say, though, Ollie, I think he'll be fantastic next season in the Championship. But will he want to play in the Championship when he's shown that he's good enough to play in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think so. I think at this stage of his development, when he's going to have played 20 professional games, he's not going to turn his nose up at being a first-team starter in the Championship. He's also, as has been referenced there, a blade. And I think a local lad coming through our academy is not going to want to leave us high and dry. It might be that, you know, if he does move on in the summer, we look at a loan back or something like that. But I have to say, he's not one that I'm worried about leaving right now. I think that we will promise him that we will start to build the team around him. I think we'll say to him, look, you're going to be the centre of our midfield and you are going to keep that position for as long as you're with the club now. We're going to build up around you. We need to start taking advantage of what a fantastic youth academy we've got. I mean, somebody referenced it earlier in chat. How many current England players have come through our academy? Is it 4? Like, that's ridiculous when you then think about what we've got in return for those players. It's quite insane that we have just not profited from the sale or the development of those players anywhere near as much as other teams do when they seem to be bringing them through. So Brooks can't be the next one that goes off and isn't allowed to be a really key part of a United team or to bring lots and lots of money into Sheffield United. So like you say, unless we get silly money and a silly offer, I would not let him go anywhere at all. I'd want to keep him around the club, and definitely for next season, he's one of the players I've got down as a nailed-on starter and a really important player for us.
Yeah, completely agree. I was just thinking about our midfield next season. Look at that. Arblaster, Brooks, Sousa, Harmer. It looks a fantastic Championship midfield. I'm not saying that they'll all want to play in the Championship. Obviously, Sousa and Harmer will feel like they're probably Premier League players, even though I don't think they've necessarily shown it week on week.
I think Sousa might be pushing his luck a little bit if that's the position he's going to take.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. However, my question to you, Ollie, before we go, is that if we need to sell players to balance the books and obviously keep the club running, who would you let go? If just say we had to raise 15, 20, 30 million, who do you think has not done enough that you're happy to let go?
Horrible question, this, Nick. Absolutely horrible with no prep time. Just going to throw that out there. I don't even have time.
All right, well, I'll help you out. Cameron Archer is going back to Aston Villa.
Archer, Anel, Harmer would probably be the 3 that you look at and think if we need a complete rebuild in the summer, those 3 potentially are the ones. I think Anel and Archer haven't shown enough. I think they have also got moves likely lined up where teams want to come in for them and want to take them forward. Harmer, I would love to stay. I'd love to stay and promise him the world that we would build the team around him and that him and Brooks and Arblaster can really create this massive force in the Championship that carries us forward. But I don't think he's going to want to take that step back to the Championship after his move from Coventry. I think that it's likely that he will be pushing for a move in the summer. But I think those 3 players, if the rumoured numbers are correct, you're probably talking 50, 60 million quid on those three. That's a hell of a lot of money to build a championship team that's then capable of being so much better in the Premier League next time, not having another one of these absolute shambles seasons where you're on 9 points in December and you're thinking, oh, I wonder if we'll break Derby's record or not. I don't want to be in that position ever again. Let's actually, any money we get, let's build a proper competitive team. And Harmer, I think, will want to leave. It's not that I want him to go. It's just that I think he'll get money. I think we'll get decent money for him.
I think you needed to be upfront.
Championship.
I think you needed to be upfront when you said that, because I thought you were saying, get rid of him. He's been rubbish. I think it's the way I framed the question.
Come at me, it's fine.
To be honest, right, I'm going to say I love Gus Harmer. I think Gus Harmer is one of our best players, if not our best player. I think he's been very poor defensively this season. When he's given away a lot of silly fouls, he's given away penalties, he's not tracked his man. I don't think defending it should really be in his thinking, because he's such a great player going forward. I just don't think defending is his bag. So we need to keep him away from the box. I think next season, having him in the midfield general, he'll be fantastic. Really.
Oh yeah, if there's if he doesn't want to leave, and we don't receive offers of 20 million quid plus, then I don't think we should even consider selling him. But I just think he's one of the players we've got who can command a proper fee, who, to be honest, this season he has been good. I think he's been okay. I don't think he's been the impact that we expected him to have. I think we did expect a little bit more from him than what we've seen so far this season. And I think that to me leads to a summer where he might want to move on. There might be a market for him, and we need the money. Ultimately, I'd like to think that we would get a hell of a lot more. I'd like to think we get 15 million each, to be honest. If we get any less than that for each individual player, then I'd be disappointed. So yeah, it's not that I want him to leave, I should be clear, but I just don't think it. I think he's the most likely one to really push him for a move.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I say, I think he's our best player. So yeah, if anyone's gonna go, you'd expect it to be Gus Harmer, thinking that he's going to be a Premier League player all his life. I think eventually.
I'll tell you what, Nick. I'll ask you a question back that I've given you no time to think about, and that I've not really thought about how I'm going to word it yet. But so United have been spent. Is it 3 of the last 5 years we've spent in the Premier League?
Yes.
So that's a hell of a lot of money coming to the club through parachute payments, through promotions, through different things. The estimated value of that would probably be what, 400 million quid, 500 million quid. Transfers.
Is this going to be a finance-based question?
No, it's not. But transfer-wise, I bet our next spend over those 5 years is also a very significant sum of money. I bet it's £100 million more than that. To say that we've spent that much money, had this much success and this much time in the Premier League, if I said to you, you can have that team back from 2018, 2019, exactly the same man for man, would you take this team we've got now after all that spending and all the Premier League money, or the team we had 5 years ago built on nothing?
Yeah. The team built on nothing, and actually,
as a club for development.
Do you know who was the most expensive player out of all those players as well? John Egan. 4 million
quid.
4 million quid. I can't remember the last time we bought. Oh no, that's a badly phrased answer, because I was going to say I can't remember the last time we paid less than 4 million for someone. We literally just signed 𝗍𝗿𝗍𝗂 for 2 million or something like that. But yeah, I'm completely with you. I almost feel like the Luton team that came up, and I know they've put Ross Barkley in there, and I know they've got Andros and a couple of other players, but it's based on the same team. Ours doesn't feel like it's based on the same team as last season. It's really not, because if you go through it, man for man, half of the team are brand new that are in this team right now. So maybe 3/4. I don't know. We've signed a lot of players, and it's not really worked. And I can't remember the last time we've actually signed somebody for a lot of money where it's instantly worked. I was thinking about Ben Brereton Diaz earlier on. I can't remember the last time a striker came in and hit the ground running. Like, I remember Warnock back in the day buying tons and tons of strikers. And like, I remember Danny Webber coming in and being excited about him. I remember Asala, Cabba, all these players that just excited me. I know it were the league below, but like, I can't remember the last time we brought. Actually, our youngsters have excited me more than the players that we brought in.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And I think like I say, that's the thing for me. It's now we're sat here doing a transfer window, January transfer window. Oh, you know, we might get Mason Holgate. And I just think that if you actually think about how successful this of United in my lifetime, I bet this is the most successful 5-year period that Sheffield United have ever had. And on the pitch, the signs of development are nothing at all. And that is just insane to think about with the money in the Premier League and the fact that we have just completely wasted such a good position is criminal, really, if I'm being honest. But we're going to be positive, Nick. And so I'm really excited about the end of this season. I think we're going to be great. We'll get 30 points and still go down, but at least it'll be competitive.
It just feels like the season, the last time we were in the Premier League, doesn't it? Where like we had a terrible start, terrible middle, and an okay end. So I think if we have an okay end, I wouldn't mind it. 2, 3. Do you know what? We've got like 16 games or something left. I'm thinking about 2 or 3 wins I'd be happy with. That is.
We've got Burnley, Forest, and somebody else at home. And I genuinely went through our fixtures earlier and I went, well, we'll lose all those away games. We've got these games at home. Let's say we'll get to 20 points. You know what I mean? Like, let's get 20 points and we'll say that's a success.
The thing is, we're looking at Derby's points total and been like, we need to make sure we exceed that. But then after Derby, I'm not sure if we're going to hit the next one. I don't know who the next one is, but I'm not 100% sure that we've got enough in our tank to hit the next one. So let's be positive, though. 8W says 30 points, but down will do for me.
That'd be a fantastic next few months, that. If we get 30 points, we'll have had a great few months because we'll have to win 7 games.
I can't even think where the points are going to come from. Anyway, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me, Ole. I hope everybody's enjoyed this one. Make sure you leave a like on it before you go. I don't think anybody else has signed. I expected Holgate to have signed by now. I'm expecting that he will sign before the end of this evening. Yeah, if you're planning on going to bed before 11, do it. It's fine. We might sign Holgate. We might not. We're probably not going to sign anyone else. Are we bothered? Not really. We're in a position where we've got absolutely no chance of staying up. Do we care if we waste a little bit of money on Holgate on loan? Probably not. What do you think, Ol?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, I think everything we're doing now is to try and get positive vibes. Somebody mentioned earlier in chat, if you finish 19th, I think it's an extra 3 to 5 million quid. So maybe you get your money back. We improve a little bit. We get a few wins on the board. The fans feel better. Bramall Lane's a nicer place to be, and you get your money back because you've climbed above Burnley. Let's say we'll take that. We'll be happy enough with it. And let's hope that Holgate can contribute to us for the rest of the season, because I, too, expect him to sign later this evening. It's a shame he didn't do it while we were live as we were hoping, but that's sometimes the way it goes. Yeah,
absolutely. And looking at the thumbnail that I made earlier on today, I think I was more hopeful than anything.
It was an insane thumbnail. I'll be honest. That like you sent it, and I was like, "What? Who are these? Are these going to play for Sheffield United?"
Well, 2 of them were Southampton as well, which I find weird. There's no way Southampton players are going to come to Sheffield United.
3 Southampton players.
Those were the rumours at the time. Those were the rumours. So I thought I'd stick them on. By the way, Jimmy is going live at 10:30. So if anybody wants any more transfer talkings, Jimmy is your man at 10:30. Make sure you go and tune into his live stream. I'm sure you already will. But yeah, like I said earlier, if you do just want to go to bed, we're not going to sign anyone of any note. We're not going to sign anyone fantastic. So yeah, enjoy your sleep. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Ole. We'll see you soon.
Cheers, everyone.